Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. This is a famous quote from author May Sarton. There is an epidemic spreading across the United States, eroding human connection. Its effects are so severe that researchers compare chronic loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In May 2023, the United States Surgeon General issued a public health advisory warning Americans about the growing crisis of social disconnection. This epidemic does not only harm individuals emotionally, it impacts physical health, mental health, communities, and social stability itself. Bold opinions, real evidence, and lasting impact. This is Rod's Scholarly Opinion. I am your host, Rodney McNeil, where we break down the real issues shaping our world through a lens that is opinionated yet grounded in credible evidence and critical thought. The loneliness epidemic is not simply about feeling sad or being isolated from time to time. It has become a societal health crisis affecting half of the adults in America, or an estimation of 52 million people. 1 in 5 adults experience daily frequent loneliness, while 69% feel they lack adequate emotional support. But before we explore the consequences of chronic or reoccurring loneliness, we first need to understand what loneliness is. According to Dr. Ashley Zucker, loneliness is the gap between the connections you desire and the connections you actually have. That feeling is subjective, meaning it is shaped by personal perception and emotional experience. Two people can live completely different social lives and still feel equally lonely. A person can be surrounded by family, coworkers, classmates, or have followers online and still feel emotionally disconnected. In relationships lacking genuine connection, there may be interaction without depth, communication without understanding, and presence without closeness. An epidemic is defined as a widespread outbreak that rapidly affects large numbers of people within a population or region. The term is usually associated with contagious diseases like influenza, but the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, known as the CDC, also uses it to describe major public health crises that spread across society, including mental and behavioral health concerns. And that brings us to social isolation. Social isolation is different from loneliness. It is an observable condition in which someone has few relationships, limited social interaction, and little involvement with groups or communities. In simple terms, loneliness is what someone feels internally. Social isolation, what can often be seen externally, is observable. Now, at first glance, isolation may not seem harmful. After all, everyone needs space, privacy, and time alone. So, what is the problem if someone chooses not to socialize, participate in groups, or constantly engage with other people? The problem begins when disconnection becomes chronic or reoccurring rather than temporary. Because human beings are biologically and psychologically wired for connection, social connection refers to the relationships, interactions, and sense of belonging people experience within families, friendships, communities, and society itself. Researchers often break social connection into three categories: structure, function, and quality. Structure refers to the number and variety of relationships a person has. Different relationships serve different purposes. For example, you may speak to your coworkers differently than you speak to your close friends or family members. Function refers to how much people can rely on others for emotional, practical, or social support. You may trust your mechanic to repair your car, but not to be your therapist to help you process emotional pain. You may trust a spouse or a close friend to understand your emotions without needing an explanation because you have developed an emotional bond, which segues perfectly into quality, the emotional depth, positivity, and satisfaction found within relationships. Think of a close friend offering empathy during heartbreak, a mentor helping a struggling student discover confidence, a parent intimately reassuring their child during difficult times. These moments build trust, emotional security, and meaningful human bonds. However, Americans are becoming less socially connected. According to recent findings, 29% of adults between the ages of 30 and 44 report feeling lonely frequently or always. Among adults ages 18 to 29, the number stands at 24%. For adults between 45 and 64, the number drops to 20%. And amongst adults 65 and older, 10% report frequent loneliness. These numbers challenge the assumption that loneliness only affects the elderly. In reality, many younger and middle-aged adults are experiencing deep social disconnection during the most demanding years of their lives. As human connection weakens, the effects of loneliness becomes more serious. And loneliness is not simply emotional discomfort. Research increasingly shows that chronic loneliness can physically alter the body and negatively impact mental health. People experiencing prolonged loneliness face a 29% increased risk of heart disease, a 32% greater risk of stroke, and a 50% increased risk of dementia among older adults. According to Harvard's Making, Caring, Calming projects, 81% of lonely adults reported struggling with anxiety or depression. These findings push loneliness beyond the category of feeling sad. Chronic social disconnection places the body under prolonged stress, increasing inflammation, weakening emotional resilience, and contributing to mental deterioration over time. Researchers have also observed neurological effects linked to chronic social isolation and depression. These effects can impact areas of the brain such as the temporal lobes, which help process language, sound, memory, and emotion, the frontal lobes, which manage reasoning, planning, and decision making, and the hippocampus, which is heavily influenced in memory, formation, and learning. Some studies suggest that severe depression is associated with reduced hippocampal volume. This can contribute to memory problems, emotional instability, difficulty concentrating, and trauma related symptoms. So, if loneliness is capable of damaging both the body and the mind, an important question emerges. Why are so many people withdrawing from one another? Between the 1920s and the 1950s, social life in America was deeply community centered. People gathered in dance halls, movie theaters, churches, parks, diners, and neighborhood events. Entertainment was often participatory rather than passive. Families hosted parties, potlucks, and game nights. Face to face interaction was not optional, it was woven into everyday life. As society modernized, however, the way people connected began to change dramatically. In the 20s, a phone was considered a luxury used by businesses and wealthy people. Post World War II, in 1950, 50% of homes had a telephone. Overall, face to face connection was valuable. Having a family was an asset. Communities came together, and entertainment required active input. As our society became more modern, the way we socialize began to shift. Today, nearly all Americans, or 98%, own a smartphone. Social media connects hundreds of millions of people instantly. Theoretically, we have more access to one another than at any point in human history, yet many people feel more emotionally distant than ever before. According to Harvard's Making Caring Common project, 73% of participants blamed technology as a contributor to loneliness. 66% cited insufficient time with family. 62% said they were overworked, and 60% reported mental health struggles that negatively affected relationships. Additional participants pointed to excessive individualism, the changing nature of work, and the decline of spiritual or religious communities. Here is my perspective on this increasingly complex issue. There are many reasons why people might feel lonely. The feeling exists even if there is no evidence to support their disconnection from people, organizations, or the environment around them. Technological advancement and the digital media that facilitates communication have devolved our social skills. We are the most connected we have ever been in the history of the world, and yet we are the most distant we have ever been from one another as a people. Our whole lives are reduced to handheld devices. Think about it. We have all our personal information, contacts, and access to cars, homes, and businesses on our smart devices. We make instant transactions. If you do not want to visit the bank, you can make deposits using your smartphone. We also broker deals and forge partnerships on social apps. As a society, we have become victims of our luxury and slaves to instant gratification and comfort. The technology we have amassed and utilized is incredible, but we can see how it has driven a wedge between meaningful human dialogue and transactional exchange. Information has become the new currency, and having a large following on social media seems to outweigh the value a person adds in real life scenarios. Casual and insensitive attitudes are the main characteristics found in heated debates online. People are hurt and injured. Maybe they will take the time out to heal, or maybe they will arm themselves and fight back. So many people have lost trust in one another and people as a whole. You look at the dating scene, and no one can seem to form a social connection. This leads me to people choosing to be alone. Modern life for many is overstimulating and exhausting. The hustle of achieving a successful career and then trying to entertain people is overwhelming, emotionally and mentally draining. Some people say that they want to prioritize their peace or protect their peace, meaning they do not have to compromise how they feel and what they are doing to accommodate another person. Still, others say they prefer to be alone so they can heal and take more time for self care. If done for a season or a moment, this could be solitude. But there is an important distinction between loneliness and solitude. Solitude is the state of being alone by choice, and it is peaceful. It is a constructive and deliberate time for reflection, rest, or creativity without disturbance. A great example is someone taking time away from everything to read a book, learning to play an instrument, or rebuilding a dream car. These are examples of constructive solitude rather than harmful isolation. Let's go beyond academic and clinical studies to hear why people want to be alone. One user says, I feel so lonely right now, but I'd rather be alone than be surrounded by fake and disingenuous people. I'm so tired of people that don't care. Another user says, why call it loneliness? I call it peace. When someone brings more peace, I might be interested. And then another says, yes, being alone is better than with people who hurt you. Another says, sitting in the house all day in peace, watching my movies. And then the last user that I have as an example says, people are draining. These comments came from 5 random users on social media who all agreed that they'd rather be alone. 2 admitted they were lonely, but would rather be alone than with others that would hurt them. Loneliness was reframed as peace, although negative emotions were considered. The disconnection from people who hurt them or could hurt them at least satisfied their need for freedom from stress-related social interactions. Life is unpredictable, painful, beautiful, and inconsistent. Human beings are social creatures, but social experiences can also wound people deeply. And because of that, some individuals choose distance as a form of self-protection. But choosing to be alone does not automatically mean someone is lonely. And if someone feels lonely while alone, they may reveal something even deeper. The human need for meaningful connection never completely disappears. Balance is everything. At the end of the day, no study, statistic, or podcast can fully define what happiness looks like for another person. What are your thoughts on people choosing loneliness? Do you believe modern society is pushing people toward isolation, or do you think people are consciously withdrawing from one another? Leave your thoughts in the comments and share this episode with someone who might relate to this conversation. This has been another episode of Rod's Scholarly Opinion, where we challenge perspectives, demand evidence, and we speak on what truly matters. I am Rodney McNeil. Stay informed, stay critical, and I'll catch you on the next one.